So, hi Dalton, how don't you tell me how you're flourishing? I know it's a kind of tough time to be flourishing in, but you're managing to do it. So how do you do it? What do you do?
Well, COVID doesn't make it easy.
No, it doesn't.
But all summer, all spring and all summer and into the fall, I played music 2 or 3 times a week out in a field with some friends who play fiddle and guitar and ukulele. And so we would play for maybe 3 hours an afternoon. It was near the Atlanta Beltline. So we got audience members to come by, and
people that were just out walking.
They were just out walking or running, or especially the ones that were walking their dogs. We didn't ever learn any people's names, but we certainly learned the dogs' names.
Right. And dogs love music, don't they?
Oh, they do. They do. And there were some great dogs. So we knew a Great Dane, and we knew 2 or 3 golden retrievers, and a labradoodle, and Mr. Bixby.
Oh yes,
Mr. Bixby is a part Chihuahua and part something else, but he's Chihuahua size. But he sits on his owner's lap while she plays guitar. And he sits with 1 foot on each knee, and his feet are kind of, I'd say he's pretty pigeon-toed. And
he's in front of the guitar.
He's in front of the guitar, and he sits there like a masthead, just hanging out. But he also is pretty bad about getting into anything that's around that he can eat. He can ferret out bits of sandwich or whatever.
So I think Chihuahuas are good at that.
He goes to the vet periodically because he's eaten something that he shouldn't eat. So anyway, but we know all the dogs by name.
What kind of music are you playing?
We play what's called old time music, and it's some of the. It's mostly old time fiddle tunes, and there's some that you would know, like Yellow Rose of Texas or Golden Slippers or things like that. But most of them are things that people might recognize. One of the things that we play is Ashokan Farewell, which was a tune that Ken Burns used in his Civil War. So we have several of those tunes that we play.
People might recognize.
Yeah, they might recognize. They wouldn't know the names, but they would recognize them. So anyway.
And you normally play at a barbecue restaurant. That was where you were playing before
the COVID
coronavirus, So now you found an outdoor place.
Well, while I was playing at the barbecue place, I met a woman, Elizabeth, a fiddler, and she and I started playing here in my living room on Thursdays, and then I would play at the barbecue place on Saturday. And when the COVID hit, then she and I decided to go to this field underneath an elm tree by the Beltline, and we played, and then we slowly picked up another fiddler, Andy, and then we picked up a guitarist, and then we picked up
Bixby, right?
That was Mr. Bixby's owner, and then we picked up 2 ukulele players. And
what a group!
Oh yeah, it's really a great group. And so they're still playing, but it's too cold for me to play with my hammered dulcimer. So
that's your instrument.
That's my instrument, right. And it's a wide area of wood, and so it's more susceptible to shrinking and expanding with the temperature. So I probably won't play again until March outside, but anyway, maybe once the vaccine comes next winter, I won't have to worry about it at all.
That'll be great. I hope we're all there.
Amen. Amen.
So I think, I know that you've been flourishing for a long time, so why don't you tell us some stories from some of the kind of wild and crazy stuff you did when you were younger that kind of, I think that I find that a lot of people that are flourishing when they're over 60 or over 70 are people that were flourishing, they kind of learned how to flourish when they were younger. That's not always true, but you did some kind of wild and crazy stuff when you were younger.
Let's see. First, when I was growing up, it was swimming, but I never swam competitively. It was just swimming, and And then when I was about 4 or 5, I got my first horse.
Oh, yeah.
So then I rode horseback until I graduated from college. And I had my horses, and then I went off to college and went to Sweetbriar. And so I fox hunted thoroughbreds. Well, they weren't all thoroughbreds. One was a great horse.
Yeah.
He was a $100 horse from Nebraska that came in a group of horses that cost, the whole group of horses was $100. And Buck turned out to be, he had a horrible trot, but he had a great gallop, and he was a great hunter. And so whenever I would hunt, especially in Albemarle County in Virginia, the gentleman in the hunt would come up and ask me if he was for sale or blah, 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 because he was such a good hunter. But of course he wasn't. He was a school horse.
Yeah, right.
But then when I graduated from college, I moved to Boston, and I could not afford to keep a horse in Boston. So that was the end of that. And let's see, after that, we fox hunted. We did fox hunt a lot in Albemarle County. But after that, I guess mostly what I did was hiking, and I started snow skiing with a guy.
Pick up the whitewater rafting.
Oh, that was later.
Oh, that was later.
That was later.
Okay, all right.
So anyway, I learned sort of how to snow ski. But in the process of doing that, because I was with a guy who was hell-bent for leather no matter what he did, I ended up twisting my knee on a bunny slope. And that has been, that's been a bother for the rest since I was 20.
But, so a lot of the stuff that you did when you were younger has created some hiccups for you as you've aged.
Oh yeah, 50 years down the road is
so that knee's been replaced, right?
That knee's been replaced, and then during that same era, I was learning to water ski in the ocean, and that was really hard.
I would think so.
I never got up standing up. I was real good at hunkering down, but then I would hit a wave and just on my nose.
I can't believe water skiing in the ocean.
Yeah, well, Boyd and BG could sit on the dock and take off from the dock, but I couldn't do that. So anyway, so then I moved from Boston, where I lived for 3 years, to, and when I was in Boston, I guess, I don't know if you and I have ever talked about this, but I taught algebra in the ghetto at night. And that was really fun. And I had some really good students. They were all, it was a Ford Foundation grant, and all these students had been screwed over by the Boston school system. Jonathan Kozol was right.
Oh, okay,
anyway, so I did that and really enjoyed that, but I moved to Tennessee to Vanderbilt for graduate school, and that's where I learned to whitewater paddle. And
that's what I've talked to you a lot about.
I got pretty wild. Paddling whitewater.
You did the most challenging rapids in the United States, right? You've done.
Well, no. Let's not go that far.
Okay, what was it? What number?
In the East, the rating goes from 1 to 6. In the West, it goes from 1 to 10. The East is a technical scale. The West is a big water scale. In the East, I probably have paddled 1 or 2 Class 6 rapids. But on the Gauley River, I guess the Gauley was it, in West Virginia. And out west, though, I was maybe Class 4 or 5. I had dreams of going on the Grand Canyon, but I hurt my shoulders before then, so I couldn't do that. And so in the beginning, I paddled an open canoe tandem. Then I paddled an open canoe solo. Then I paddled a C1, which looks like a kayak, but it has a single-bladed paddle, and you kneel rather than sitting down in it. I had a great T-shirt that said "Half the paddle, twice the woman," that Robert gave me. But anyway, so I did that until first I hurt this shoulder on the Tellico River, And then years later, I hurt this shoulder on the Ocoee River.
Right.
So I just kept paddling with bad shoulders until it hurt so bad I couldn't do that anymore.
Right. And now you're in the process of replacing those shoulders. You've done one.
I've replaced one shoulder, 2 knees. I replaced the snow skiing knee, the water skiing knee, the hip that was just collateral damage from walking skewed for so long.
Right.
And now this is the Teleco shoulder, and it's been replaced.
Right.
But because of COVID, I haven't replaced this shoulder yet. I just baby it.
Right.
So anyway, but that's all right.
But
you know?
you have no regrets.
Except for about 20 nanoseconds, I would do every bit of it again.
What happened during those 20 nanoseconds?
Well, 5 nanoseconds for my left knee, 5 for my right knee, 5 for my...
So you would have done everything except the injuries?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, because it was great fun, and I was an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah.
So I finally got over that, thank goodness. But
so does the music, how does the music is mostly what you're doing, the most exciting thing that you're doing now. So how does that, it's obviously not whitewater rafting or snow skiing.
No, but when I was real young, I took classical piano. I played classical piano up until I graduated from high school. And I took from Anton Dvorak's great niece. So it was serious classical piano.
Right.
So I've loved music
so you have
forever.
A grounding in music too.
And when I was in Tennessee, I was dating a guy who there was a lot of hammered dulcimer music there.
Yes.
And I was dating a guy who wanted to give me a hammered dulcimer. And so we had this one made for me.
Oh.
And that was in '82, I guess. And so I learned to play it. And then I played it all the time I was in Tennessee. When I was in Montana, and then I moved from Tennessee to Montana.
Right.
When I lived in Montana, I played in a contradance band. And then when I moved here, I played with a friend until she died of glioblastoma. And then I didn't play for about 14 or 15 years.
Yeah.
And I retired and decided that's what I was going to do, is start playing music again, since I couldn't do anything else. All my joints were ruined. And so I went to John C. Campbell, a folk school in North Carolina, Brasstown. And then since then I've been going to, except for this past year when the COVID stopped me, there's a music festival in Black Mountain that is awesome. Oh my gosh. So I've been going there, and I have lots of good friends from there. And
hopefully you'll be back next year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's another one that I've just discovered that I'll be going to next year called Kentucky Music Week.
Oh.
And what it is, it's just a week of you take classes in things that you want to learn about, enhancements. But then at night, this is the best part. At night, you jam for like 3 hours.
Right.
So you're sitting around with all these people just playing songs, and it's really, really wonderful. So anyway, that's the best part of it for me. And I always come home exhausted and having to sleep for a couple of days, because I start at 7 in the morning and I go to bed about 1 o'clock, and I start at 7 in the morning again, and I'm not a morning person.
Another thing that I know that you do is that you've kept up regular exercise, and right now you're doing water aerobics.
I'm doing water aerobics. I was doing strength training, but my strength trainer left town. So, and I've hardly forgiven her for that, but anyway, so I'm still doing water aerobics, and my hip, I was hot air ballooning. For the last 2 or 3 years, I've had some friends in Albuquerque, and that's where the International Hot Air Balloon Festival is.
Right.
So I'd been going to that, and not this past October, but not the COVID October, but the one before that, I was getting out of the balloon, and I got my toe stuck in the basket, and the balloon, the surface air was really strong, and the basket bumped up. And I've done something to my hip that got fixed. So
the fixed hip.
The fixed hip. So I've got to have that looked. I had it looked at in April, and they said, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with it." Well, there is something wrong with it. So
you're not going back.
I'll wait until COVID is COVID is less, and then I'll go back for that. So anyway, in the meantime, I'm gimping around, and COVID. I love to give I love to give fancy dinner parties and luncheons
you're
and
famous
things like
for
that.
Right.
But I haven't been able to do that much because of COVID.
Right.
And during the summer, in the mornings, we would sit out on the patio, different friends, and I would make biscotti, and they would bring whatever they were going to drink, and we would sit around and talk until the sun got too hot. But these days, when it's 50 degrees, it's not so exciting to sit around.
Right.
So that'll start again.
But we're in Georgia, so it's a short winter. So,
Thank goodness.
Yeah, right.
When I was in Montana, the winter was, or Boston, I lived in Boston, and the winter was, well, there were, in Boston, and I didn't keep track of it so much in Montana. Although in Montana, I will say, it snowed every month at my house except for July. But in Boston, there were 10 weeks of summer. And if it rained on one of those weekends, that was 10% of your summer
your whole
gone.
Summer, right, yeah.
So, so I'm really glad to be in Georgia.
Right.
I grew up in Florida, so that was
you're
even more summer. But this is good.
right. Well, I just want to thank you so much for, responding to being part of this interview series, and I just love your stories. I've known Dalton for a long time, and she's a great storyteller, as you can tell if you've been watching this interview. So I just want to say thank you and continue to flourish.
Well, you're welcome, and I'll do my best.
I know you will.
Oh, bye-bye.